In the early of 2022, Russia started the war by invading Ukraine. So how does the war and sanctions imposed on Russia affect the global food industry in general? Both Ukraine and Russia are major players in agriculture industry that sum up to almost 12% of the total food calories traded globally. The most provided agricultural products are maize and wheat by both countries. According to the European Parliament, Russia and Ukraine together contribute 34% of wheat, 17% of maize, 27% of barley in the global exports in year 2021, and Russia is one of the top exporters of fertilizers in the entire world that owns 16% market share for fertilizer mineral and up to 16% for finished fertilizers. Both are big contributors in agricultural products, and huge impact was created on the global food industry due to the war came at the time when climate change and COVID-19 pandemic that have already causing shortage and increasing food price. If we look from the diagram, it tells you that the decrease in crops supply will shift the supply curve leftward. Okay, let's assume the demand remains constant. The price of the crops will increase and businesses that require those agricultural products will have higher cost of production, in which the final output price will increase as well. Now, looking at the second diagram. This diagram shows that, when the demand for crops increase, the demand curve will shift to the right, leading to a higher price. Now, we can conclude that Ukraine-Russia war and sanctions on Russia will cause cost-push inflation. Soaring of food prices will reduce the interest of import of countries other than the food exporters, and it could damage a country's economy that highly depends on exporting food and ingredients. Some states and international organizations, led by the European Union and the United States, imposed sanctions on Russian citizens and companies in reaction to the annexation of Crimea by the Russian Federation along with the Russian invasion of the Ukraine in 2022. The scope of the sanctions grew as the unrest spread to other regions of eastern Ukraine and ultimately intensified into the ongoing conflict in the Donbas. As a result, production of livestock feeds such as maize and wheat are greatly contracted in both Ukraine and Russia. Looking at this diagram, we can know that the decrease in production of livestock feeds in Russia and Ukraine shifts the supply curve to the left. This will lead to an increase in the price of livestock feeds, ultimately increasing the price for producing chickens. Theoretically, the quantity demanded should decrease, as determined by the new equilibrium of S1 and D. However, this is not entirely true for Malaysia's case. Now, let's try and look at this statistical diagram. Poultry accounts almost half of Malaysia's total meat consumption in 2021, while beef and veal in the second with just 5.5%, while pork comes in third and sheep at the last. This is partly due to Malaysia being a multicultural country. Islamic law considers pork and its byproducts as not halal, meaning Islams are prohibited from eating pork. Hindus considers cow as a holy animal, thus, beef is avoided. Some Buddhists discourage the consumption of beef with the same reason as Hindus. All of these restrictions make poultry, or specifically, chicken, the most consumed meat in Malaysia in every year, regardless of economic conditions. With that being said, assuming the quantity of livestock feeds demanded remains unchanged even with the price increase, the result will be as shown in the diagram below. With the quantity of livestock feeds remaining unchanged at Q0, the demand curve shifts to the right, resulting in an even higher price of livestock feeds at P2. This chain reaction of increasing prices has caused maize prices to hike from RM 1,300 per ton from during the COVID-19 pandemic to RM 1,800 per ton as of July 15. Soya bean meal, which is also one of the most used chicken feeds, costs higher than RM 2,650 per ton now, compared to RM 1,650 from back in January 2020. From February 5 to June 30, the Malaysian government has had the ceiling price for grade C eggs set at RM 0.35 per egg, whereas the production cost had increased to RM 0.45 per egg. Even with the subsidy given of 5 cents per egg, the farmers are losing 5 cents per egg. With Malaysia currently producing 28 million tons of eggs daily, the total daily loss for the farmers sums up to a total of RM 1.04 million. The ceiling price for each egg has been increased by 2 cents for July and August, but even that is still insufficient for the farmers to break even. Since the prices of eggs are restricted by the ceiling price, farmers will have to find an alternative solution to minimize their losses. Logically, it would be to scale down their production. Some smaller poultry farms even closed down for good, as they cannot afford to keep operating at a loss. As of the mid of July, 40% of poultry farms in Malaysia has closed down, only 170 farms left, compared to 300 before. Less farms means less supply, hence the same phenomena will happen again similar to the first diagram. Government will have to either further increase the subsidy or increase the price ceiling again, which means chickens and eggs will be even pricier. According to Index Mundi, Malaysia chicken meat domestic consumption in year 2022 is amounted to 1,711,000 metric tons with a growth rate of 2.03% prior to year 2021 at 1,677,000 metric tons. It can be seen that Malaysian chicken meat demand has increased over time. However, Ukraine-Russia war has provoked the grain and supply chain crisis, which drives up chicken feed price, eventually leading to higher chicken price that hit as high as RM10 per kilogram in Malaysia. Ukraine is one of the major producers of corn and wheat, in which both are used as chicken feed. When the war is triggered, the supply of these crops is being cut off immediately, and chicken breeding farmers encounter the problem of lacking accessibility to chicken feed. This abrupt decrease in supply of corn and wheat increases the price of these crops that could make up to 70% of poultry farmers' production cost. Increasing costs of corns and wheats will then reduce the profit earned by chicken suppliers if chicken price is maintained. Chicken farmers can respond to higher costs of chicken feeds by laying off labor. This indicates that less wages would be paid for hiring, but this causes the problem that chicken farmers unable to maximize their profit as they reduce the amount of workers to raise chickens. Without increasing the selling price of chicken farmers will earn lesser than before or end up suffering from losses because of the continuous increase of corn and wheat prices caused by shortage. Nevertheless, chicken farmers will definitely choose to increase chicken price to cover up the production costs for gains, yet chicken price ceiling is imposed by government to restrict suppliers from selling above RM 9.40 per kilogram that put chicken suppliers at odds with their purpose of making profits. When it comes to the stage where chicken farmers need to bear the losses, they will rather reduce the chicken supply or even switching to other alternative markets for the worst case. Looking at the graph, Ukraine-Russia war and sanctions have led to shortage of chicken supply, shifting the chicken supply curve upward. The shift of chicken supply curve creates a new equilibrium point which increases the price of chicken while decreasing the quantity demanded for chicken. Due to higher chicken price, people tend to switch chicken to its substitutes such as pork, shifting from D0 to D1. Higher demand for pork shifts the demand curve for pork from D0 to D1, leading to a new point of equilibrium that has higher price and quantity demanded. Suppliers take advantage to decrease supply to increase pork price for more profit, which shifts the pork supply curve upward to S1. However, as time goes by, people realize that pork price starts to increase due to high demand, so they switch back to chicken instead of purchasing pork, leading to lower demand for pork, and supply for pork will decrease in response to low pork demand that shifts pork supply curve downward from S0 to S1. Meanwhile, demand for chicken increases and shifts demand curve from D1 back to D0. At the same time, chicken supply will decrease as suppliers tend to maximize their profit by reducing supply that causes increasing chicken price. Eventually, people realize that chicken price starts to increase again and will then switch back to pork as substitution. This will create a cycle in which people will switch the products back and forth according to the price of products. The skyrocketing prices of imported chicken and feed have led to a severe shortage of domestic supply. Following a global feed shortage exacerbated by the Russia-Ukraine war, Malaysia halted chicken exports in June until production and prices stabilized and, in addition to the export ban, cancelled import permits for chicken and other foodstuffs to increase food supplies. Previously, the Malaysian government capped the price of chicken meat and provided subsidies to farmers who suffered losses due to the rising cost of chicken feed. The chicken-based fast food chain industry has been hit hard by the shortage of raw materials and the lack of chicken supply brought about by the Russian-Ukrainian war. The national chicken shortage, rising raw material prices and reduced supply have resulted in the chicken-based fast food industry like KFC having to raise the prices of their food products to make more profit. The decline in demand for chicken has led to a shift in focus to other alternatives, resulting in an increase in demand for beef and fish, while the beef-based fast food industry, like Burger King, has grown more objective. Unlike KFC, Burger King's sales increased significantly in the first and second quarters of 2022. The second most popular fast food sector in Malaysia, KFC, which uses chicken as a staple food item, had been maintaining high demand and sales prior to the crisis, but was greatly affected by the outbreak of the Russo-Ukrainian war. Unlike Burger King, the price of food raw materials has led to a decrease in the supply of chicken products, and this sudden crisis situation has led to some items on KFC's main menu being out of stock, and even the risk of closure of some local shops. Looking at this graph, we assume that chicken demand curve remains constant, but the supply curve shifts to the left, resulting KFC have to increase the price of various chicken products to obtain higher profits, which can be shown that equilibrium price increases from P1 to P2. Although KFC has responded in a timely manner, sales revenue does not seem to be on the rise. With the increase in the equilibrium price of chicken, and the decrease in supply also further led to a decrease in the equilibrium quantity of chicken products, which is reflected in the graph as a decrease from Q1 to Q2. This would have prompted consumers to start looking for other alternatives. Now, let's look on Burger King. with its unique beef burgers, such as single BBQ beefchicken and double cheeseburger, which have a large market share in the Malaysian fast food industry. Chicken, on the other hand, is not a major product, so the increase in chicken prices does not have a significant impact on it. Due to the rising price of chicken products, consumers start to look for other alternatives, and because of this, the demand for beef starts to rise in Malaysia. Looking on this graph, it shows the fall in the demand for chicken leads to a rise in consumer demand for beef, where the equilibrium quantity rises from Q1 to Q2. If we assume that the supply curve remains constant and the demand curve shifts to the right, the sudden rise in demand causes Burger King's supply of beef products to fail to keep up with demand, and thus the price of beef products must be raised to curb